Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nitin Deckha, and I am a member of ROM's Friends of South Asia, a volunteer committee that supports the appreciation for and cultivates awareness of ROM's South Asian gallery and collection. We strive to forge and maintain links with all those who are curious about and interested in South Asian art, culture, and history. South Asia at ROM encompasses Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Nepal, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Tibet, and their diasporas. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that ROM sits on what has been the ancestral lands of the Wendat, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and the Anishinaabe Nation, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, since time immemorial to today. I am delighted you could join us for today's ROM Connects program, celebrating the 75th anniversary of Pakistan's independence. I encourage you to submit your thoughts and questions via the chat feature during the program, and there will be an opportunity to answer some of these questions that you have at the end. Today's program will feature two important voices from the Third Karachi Biennale KB22, Faisal Anwar and Atteqa Malik. Faisal Anwar is a hybrid artist and interactive producer working between Canada and Pakistan. Anwar is a graduate of the Canadian Film Centre's Habitat LAB, the Interactive Arts Program, in 2004, and did his bachelor's in graphic design from the National College of Arts in Lahore, Pakistan in 1996. He is the co-founder of Art Address, an artist-led collective in Oakville, Canada, and chief curator of the Karachi Biennale 2022. Anwar's work explores the history and diversity of urban spaces and cultural identities. He is inspired by hybrid art, algorithms, data visualization, ecology, and cognitive sciences to create thought-provoking works while pivoting community participation and cultural experiences. His artistic practice branches through multiple media, including interactive installations, immersive environments, data-driven interventions, and public art. Joining him is Atteqa Malik, who is the founder trustee and vice chair of the Karachi Biennale Trust. Atteqa is a conceptual artist, cultural operator, and critical thinker. She has extensive experience in designing workshops that use new media as tools for creative expression, and she enjoys working with communities from diverse backgrounds. Being one of the founders of the Karachi Biennale in 2015, she has been contributing a great amount of her time towards the Biennale's Global Outreach Program and its Management and Hospitality Department. The Global Outreach Program connects international artists to various communities in the city of Karachi for art, well-being, and educational exchanges. In addition, Atteqa has participated in numerous media art conferences and exhibitions and contributed to policy-making strategies for new media art, especially using open technology. So please welcome Atteqa Malik, who will start us off by giving us some insight into the establishment of the Karachi Biennale and how it has created a forum for Pakistani artists that has also engaged international artists. So welcome, Atteqa.
कराची बिएनाल ने इस शहर की शनाख्त, मुमकिनात और इसमें बसने वालों के तजुर्बात को आर्ट के तख्लीकी अमल से उजागर किया। लोगों को इन आर्ट वर्क्स को देखकर अपनी ज़िंदगी की वैलिडेशन का एहसास होता है और वो इसको इमोशनल और इंटेलेक्चुअल दोनों सतह पर महसूस करते हैं और बिल्कुल यही मेरा अपना तजुर्बा भी था।
I think that art is a vehicle for social change. it can have a massive impact. And I think particularly public art, like in the Karachi Biennale, where you're taking art into public spaces and places, I think it makes it far more accessible. Ordinary members of the public who might not have witnessed art before, you know, walking around the zoo, coming across a sculpture and being absolutely engaged with it. Families, people from all sorts of different ages, and I think that's what's been most astonishing about the Biennale. There have also been 36 international artists, so I think bringing people to Pakistan and to Karachi to experience, often a lot of those were experiencing Pakistan for the first time. Art can change people's perceptions of the city, of the country, of the culture. So I think all those people who visited, international visitors, absolutely fell in love with Karachi.
जिस तरीके से माहौलियात को और आर्ट को एक साथ लेकर आया है, मेरे ख्याल में बेइंतहा एक खुशाइन, बल्कि खुशाइन से बढ़ के एक बहुत ज़रूरी चीज़ है, क्योंकि आर्टिस्ट की नज़र से हम अपने माहौल को देखें, उसमें जो ख़राबी हो रही है उसको देखें और उसको इस नज़र से देखें कि वो हमारा किस तरह से हिस्सा है और हम किस तरीके से उसको बेहतर बनाने में अपना किरदार अदा कर सकते हैं। मेरे ख्याल में इस मर्तबा जो आर्टिस्ट ने जिस तरीके से माहौलियात को पेश किया है लोगों को, उनके दिल में, उनके जहन के अंदर भी इसकी अहमियत का एहसास ज़रूर हुआ होगा और यही सबसे बड़ी कामयाबी है। Transform the city, I think, and I think we'll continue to do so with future biennales.
That was a video of KB19, 2019, when the theme for the Karachi Biennale was environment. And it's good that you saw the video so that you can, get a context when I'm speaking. And it's such a pleasure to be here with Faisal, who's curating, Faisal Anwar, who is curating KB22, because I just know it's going to be something spectacular. And he will tell you more about that when he speaks. I'm going to speak more about the Biennale and the Trust. So the Karachi Biennale Trust was formed in 2015 by a group of visionary, artists, thinkers, professionals who wanted to do something for their city. And what it does is it brings together innovation, excellence, and criticality through a multiplicity of curatorial strategies. One of our main objectives is to showcase art from Pakistan, not just to the rest of the world, but to the people of Karachi itself. I mean, a city of 20 million more, and more. So it's a fantastic opportunity for us to do that. And how we do that is that we install art in public spaces in the city, and we engage in critical discourse, and we create, through that, we create a groundbreaking archive for the people, right? For the local artist habitat. So KB's past and continued efforts since 2015 have successfully created Pakistan's largest public and international art exhibition. And we look forward to 2022 this year, October, and hopefully many of you will be coming because it's going to be fantastic. So now KB's mandate is to cross-pollinate ideas, and explore meaning and truth across disciplines and contexts. And we drew it through three main wings. One is the main exhibition, which lasts 2 weeks. And the other one is through the outreach, that we have educational outreach, we have global outreach. And this continues in the build-up, like the 2 years build-up to each Biennale. And then we have the critical discourse, which is, again, the discourses take place as a build-up to the Biennale, and then there are resulting keynotes and other things. So there's these three main wings. We want to start discussions on what art means, and we want to start it across a range of people, school children, local communities, professionals. People hesitate to come into an art gallery. So when we're bringing the art out to them, we place the art in public spaces. We give established Pakistani artists a chance to show work in their own city alongside emerging artists. So it's fantastic. It's very, very healthy. And what it does is that when they are working in public spaces, they have these huge spaces to create what they normally would be restricted in a gallery space. So it's the work that comes out or has been is magnificent, and because of that. And each Biennale presents a different challenge with its theme, with its venues, and it's all up to the curator, the team, and the artists to navigate these challenges. And it is through this that a lot of discussion is created pre-Biennale, and then the resulting work is definitely exuding that, because this is a city with no major art institution. So, we don't have an infrastructure to fall back on. We basically are, winging it as we go. And I'm happy to say that in the last Biennale, the government of Sindh supported us. The mayor supported us. And because it was held in the outside, we were given local parks by the government. So we can move on to the next slide. And we can see some of these images. You can see what I'm talking about, scale, because we were outside. So we can move on. And one of the most dynamic spaces that we got was the Karachi Zoo. Not only did it have nostalgic memories for a lot of 50 plus or 40 plus people like us, but it was a place that people from all walks of life visit. And it was amazing to see that while they came to visit the animals, they also engaged very, very actively with the artwork there, and we can move on. And really work that questioned and was very, very questioned, not just art, but questioned the theme, which is environment, a very relevant theme. And we can move to the next slide. And these are just some of the images from the various artists that responded to this theme. And you can see each artist has done it in a completely different way, but most of the materials are local because it is difficult to, import anything. So it's very local centric, and that resonates very well with the audiences also, And then we move on. Then we move on to our venues. We are able to have access, thankfully, to a lot of heritage buildings in the old part of the city. So it has enabled us to, bring people from one part of the city that they would not normally move from to places in the city that, that they actually have to make an effort to reach, which is a traffic-filled old but heritage site, and they never knew existed. So this has been a real that people have really responded well to it, because they're saying we've been able to learn about our city, and we've continued to do that, and we're going to continue doing that for the future. So and you can see that there are some heritage sites here, and in this image we can move on to the next one. There are some. This is Jamshed Memorial Hall, and the people from these venues also are very excited to have visitors, because some of them are schools. So the school children get to interact with the artists, with the visitors, and be part of this really exciting event. So it's all about communities, engaging communities, and that is a very essential part of the Karachi Biennale, engaging communities at all levels. And this one, the one for KB22, Faisal will talk about it, because the challenges are going to be different. But it's always about sparking urgent and optimistic conversations. Because when we get together and collaborate with the artists, with the government, with the curator, we always end up with something that we're all happy with, because it's a collaborative effort. And I think that is very much needed in our city, where everyone is usually mushroomed in their own safe spaces, but the Biennale brings it all out in the open. And we also have attracted a lot of international visitors. That is this is a very, last year we had about 40 curators from Europe. They had come down, and we had given them a bus and a guide who took them around the city, navigated everything, and they truly enjoyed being on their own, yet experiencing Karachi and the Biennale. So, such experiences are being made possible because of this international event. And the curatorial discourse, the critical discourse is also for the past two Biennales, it's been a South-South dialogue with South American scholars coming for the KB17, and we had African artists coming for KB19. So we are also engaging in that kind of discussion that we feel is essential, because there are so many layers to our city. Just putting an artist residency in a low-income area of Karachi called Orangi Township, which was supported by Orangi Pilot Project, gave the artists a completely different view of their own city, a place where they would not go, but they actually enjoyed, because it was not as unsafe as they thought it would be. And it had so many aspects to it, the kind of handwork that is done there, and the resulting artwork was amazing to see. So the residencies are always curated with that in mind, that it's not about international residencies only. It's also about just getting to know your own city. And then we can go on to the next one. We also have a wellness program. We can go back to the previous one, which is, so the wellness program is something that we have initiated in KB19 for 18 to 25-year-old creative young people. And it's a coaching program, and it shows them that they are not isolated as artists in this community. They have a lot in common, and we give them some coping strategies, and they again get to collaborate and, create something together. So this year, again, we will be doing that, because it was highly successful last time. We can move on. Then we have 5 prizes, each with a bespoke trophy, which is created by an artist. So the 5 prizes are the Juried Art Prize, Popular Art Prize, Lifetime Achievement Award, Performance Art Prize, and Emerging Art Prize. And each one is, planned and designed to perfection. And it gives us a chance to acknowledge the fantastic talent that exists in this country, and not just established, but emerging. So it gives young artists a platform from which they can go further. And we've seen that happen with the prizes. So that is one very important aspect of the Biennale. And lastly, we have the most fantastic educational outreach program, which reaches out to about 4,000 students before the Biennale. And taking the thematic of the Biennale, it prepares them. This year, in preparation for art and tech, we've done STEAM workshops. And we also had this UNESCO-funded competition, digital storytelling of heritage sites. And these programs excite the students and get them ready to visit with their parents when the Biennale actually takes place. And these are the ways that we are slowly spreading into the fabric of the city and bringing people and making people excited for what's coming up. And that is the end of my talk. And I hope to see some of you or many of you at the Biennale this year. And thank you very much for listening to my presentation.
Thank you very much, Atteqa. That was completely fascinating. And I really hope there will be some questions. Please put them in the Q&A. We are getting a few, but if people have questions, for example, I'm certainly interested in your range of global outreach, the ways you're engaging different constituencies. You mentioned students, but even artists themselves within their own sense of city, and that whole idea of these the range of kinds of issues and themes you're dealing with, which are both have local resonance, but are really global. I think that's really fascinating. So I'm hoping we will hear more as we now have Faisal Anwar. I invite to share his curatorial vision for the upcoming KB22. So Faisal.
Thanks, Nathan. Thanks for the talk. Thanks for inviting me and Atteqa for such an exciting conversation here. Let me share my screen. So I'll just spend some time and just talk about KB22, Karachi Biennale 22, and sort of take the audience through some of the ideas I'm developing, and I hope that will start some conversation. I'm looking forward to have that dialogue with the audience here. When I started my journey back in 2001 as a curator, and even before that, exploring themes of my own art practice for the past 20 years, I see medium as a core premise of my investigation and relate it with the present realities of our times. Marshall McLuhan talks about in his book, The Understanding Media, the Extension of Man, and it's sort of referring to the idea of the medium is the message. And I think it's really interesting to deconstruct these medium and the message, and even relate with today's talk, innovation and connection. I think how the medium through which a message is experienced shapes the audience perception of the message, and sometimes medium itself become a message itself. And I think if we relate these two components in present context, what I'm interested in looking into what is our present realities. And this sort of set up a really interesting premise for me to start investigating, reaching out to artists and having these conversations about their realities of present times and their issues and concerns of present times and how they manifest that into their work. Now, there are a couple of slides I added because I think just to put the context here to investigate the realities. And I think it's really interesting how we shifted as communities, as audience, and now living in the moment. You know, there's about 6 hours, 58 minutes of time we are spending on internet using different ways to engage, different ways to present, and different ways to reach out to each other, right? There's about 4.95 billion active users right now in the world. COVID actually even further pushes this idea of, and forced us to be part of this sort of digital evolution, which is we are going through right now. And I think this reality, it sets up a really interesting premise to look into how it's manifesting for the artist and what actually that means when we look at these contemporary mediums and contemporary tools to work with, to engage with the audience. Our cities live without borders and they act like portals. And I think the spontaneity, living in the moment, kind of pushes us to have this real-time engagement with the content and with the expression. The idea of data, the idea of accumulating data, the idea of investigating the environment has these new territories now for us to relate with. It gives us new perspective of the questions which we are asking for many, many years, such as climate impact, such as the environmental concerns, such as the socio-political frameworks. The data which we accumulate has a certain way for us to go deeper into those conversations. And now we are into a new paradigm shift of looking into what is real and what is fabricated, what is the private versus public space exists around us, how we are developing the political sort of perceptions for the audience, where the privacy and the conversation around this data exist. And then we have this totally paradigm shift in terms of our behaviors as audience, right? We have now this very, I would say, extended and immersive expression, and we all evolved to share those moments in real time with our audience. And I think this shift which happens with all of us as communities is also having these questions around how we present work, how we engage with the work, and how it's reflect back into the institutions and reflect back into the participation with the audience, with the messages, and with the thematic conversations which we have. So Karachi Biennale's sort of overarching theme is collective imagination, now and the next. And I like what Atteqa was talking about, and what Nathan is also talking about, this is 75th anniversary of Pakistan. And what I was interested in developing this collective imagination for the audience and also for the artist to celebrate and really investigate the contemporary framework in Pakistan and globally, and invite artists, designers, researchers, scientists, thinkers to actually create this experience for the audience, which hopefully will generate new conversations and generate new kind of perceptions of the present times we're going through. Now, if we look at the trajectory of, so many different ways to talk about the different movements in the art formation, for the past two and a half decades, there are really interesting shifts going through the innovation and the going through in the mediums and the tools we have, and it's directly responding and reflecting on the artist and the creation of the artist, and also the questioning about, what is the art in contemporary times? What is the distribution models we have? How we engage and reach out to the larger audience? And one thing which is really, which really fascinates me, this hybrid art movement, which, most of my art practice is also around it, is looking into how it's developing a kind of a new genre, looking at these new emerging technologies like, metaverse, NFT art, and kinetic art, which how it resonates with, and create this this sort of interesting space for us as an audience and also as an artist. This definition is really, I think, is right on the spot by Victoria, and she talks about the hybrid art resides in between, around, above and below what is generally accepted as culture. It's that experimental and exploring space where the shift is happening, which becomes more collaborative between disciplines, like such as art, science, nature, research, and really investigating those ideas, which not only give us a new way to look at the problem, but also somehow it reaches out to even the policy making, looking into the policies of the cities around, again, ecology, climate, and looking at how we perceive those global sort of narrative in collaboration to each other. So there are these three sort of overarching thematic conversation which I'm interested in, and I'm really excited about it. The intersection of art, technology, science, and nature, and really looking into the community-centric, social-centric, and city-specific, cultural-centric work, which sort of helps us to look at these new formation and experimental formation, the new collaboration between the tradition and the artist, and how it sort of relates and develop these new conversations with the audience and also with the artist community as well. So these are some of the questions which I'm interested in exploring, the role of the art and artist in contemporary times. This new forms, experience, and expression from imagination to practice through the intersection of art, technology, and emerging mediums. And I think it's very, as I was telling earlier, I don't see technology as technology. It's a tool. It's a medium which we have now, and how it's reflecting us to talk about these pressing ideas. And then the decentralization of power and the ownership in art making, art economy in present times. If we look at the blockchain and the cryptocurrency, and if we look at these parallels which is going on right now, I think they are started to have these questions about the power corridors, looking into the semantics of how we create work, how we sell work or distribute work, and how we engage with the work. I think these three layers are going through this experimental phase right now. And I think it's going to set up the trajectory of next 5 to 10 years for us. And, you know, the disruption with tech innovation and its cultural and social impacts on time, past, present, and future. And when I see collective imagination now and the next, I'm looking into, you know, I think we have many different ways, but in a very repetitive way, we're looking at history, we're looking at these present times. And I think it's a good time to investigate with the emerging technologies, with the emerging behaviors, how we can kind of reflect back into the history and also look at a new perspective into the history and evolve and look at how we can define a present and also explore the future possibilities with it. So Karachi Biennale is an overarching, we have about 40 plus artists and collectives. There's about 13 countries. There's about 25 projects we have. It is about 8 venues, and I'm super excited about creating this experience, which is going to be really fascinating for the local Pakistani audience, including young and emerging artists. You know, as Niloufar, as Atteqa was talking about, there's Karachi is a big city. There's Pakistan has about 24 plus million audience. And there's about 40 to 50% youth, which are now in the making of what we making of the next formation in art making and art production. And I think this sort of set up a hopefully good conversation and good exposure, and also good way for audience to look at how the artists are now evolving and how they're developing work in context to the present times. So I'm not going to share all the artists because we have a limited time. If you want to learn more about the artist list, you can reach out to karachibiennale.org.pk. We are going to share their detailed projects there as well. But if you want to know more about the list of the artists, some curatorial vision there, you can reach out there and you can have some more ideas about it. But today I'm just going to share 4 to 5 artists and just talk about some of their practice and their work they're bringing for the Karachi Biennale. Invisible Flock is an interactive art studio based out of UK, London. Invisible Flock are an award-winning interactive art studio operating at the intersection of art and technology. They create sensory installations and environments, asking us to renegotiate our emotional relationship to the natural world and how we live, connect, and share to live better together in a global society. For Karachi Biennale, they are developing a really exciting kinetic sculpture installation, collaborating with traditional local musician, sound and music that are disappearing in Pakistan and forming a new form of expression to reimagine traditional art forms. They are they are in production right now, and I'm super excited what they're working on. And I urge everyone here to please visit if you can and be part of this experience. Suleiman Lopez is a new media artist. He's working at the intersection of art, science, sociology, and technology. He's also a founder of Hard Disk Museum, which is working in NFT and blockchain space. He's based out of Spain. He diverts digital tools and techniques created for the recent economy and political premise to create physical and virtual forms. Suleiman is investigating new digital economy, working with blockchain, cryptocurrency, and creating an inflatable, real-time, responsive sculpture with the data of blockchain. And this is what I was referring earlier about, the artists are using data as a medium and really creating more engaging and responsive work, excuse me, with the technology as a medium. Rashid Rana is a well-respected Pakistani artist and dean of the School of the Arts, Visual Arts and Design, BNU University in Lahore. Rashid Rana is investigating what is art and how we define it and what is art making in contemporary time. He's kind of reimagining the value of commodity while creating distribution network without advertisement, looking into a parallel of really questioning about the history of art and its present manifestation. Anthony Mccall, as we all know, is one of the prominent artists of our times, based out of Boston, occupying a space between cinema, sculpture, and drawing. He's well known of his installation called Solid Light, which began in 1973 and has been shown in major world museums, including the Whitney Museum of American Art. I'm really excited that we will be able to bring an iteration of Solid Light in Pakistan and create this really stunning, immersive installation with his work. And he is displaying his work as one of the heritage side, which has its own relevance in Karachi, a fascinating heritage building, and I'm super excited about his work. Amin Rahman is a multidisciplinary visual artist of Pakistani origin in the Canadian diaspora. He's developing a hybrid work in collaboration with another artist from Toronto, and with his painting and AR commenting on climate, ecology, and the politics around it. He's mainly focusing on water as a commodity and how the water in Pakistan and in the region and even globally is becoming getting victimized by the lobbies and by different political pressures, and how it's responding to the present realities of our times. Giselle, she's based out of Brazil, She is a researcher and she is a digital artist and activist. And she is developing a really interesting AI work, which is based out of her research and data of nature and specific plants to comment on colonial histories. This work is also research-based, and it will not only, she's using AI as a medium to express her concerns about how colonial perspective and how colonial semantics actually influenced the naming conventions, or also how we describe certain label certain plants, label certain manifestations into different objects, and how it's impacting the socio-cultural landscape. Imran Qureshi is another artist for the Karachi Biennale. Imran is developing immersive projection mapping, sound-based installation, inviting the viewer to step into the experience of religious celebration and the idea of how technology has been consistently adding and changing the meaning of culture and traditional values in our societies. So he's developing these infinity immersive environments in two places, again, positioned in one of the amazing heritage building in Old Karachi, which has its own history. And I think the work and his comment on the tradition and how the technology is impacting position into this heritage building will generate a new perspective for the audience, and also inviting them to experience something really magical. I'm super excited about his work too. This is my last slide. So Nobumichi is graduated from the Department of Science, Tokyo University. He's challenging innovative expression by fusion of art and design thinking and technology. Nobumichi is creating data-driven VR work. His work visualizes invisible violence through measuring emotions and conditions which a city hold. This VR piece is taking audience through a sensory data-driven expression through a VR, where their heartbeats and their environment become part of the work. It's very experimental work, and I think it's going to create a lot of interesting conversation. Well, just to end the conversation, I'm just acknowledging my team here. I'm working with lovely team here, and I think we are fully scaled in production right now, 24/7, pretty much, and really working hard not only to present all the works, but also really pushes the experience for the audience, not for the physical engagement on site, but also supporting a hybrid kind of global reach out and looking into various ways how we can make work more accessible, not only for the gallery audience, how we can take out the work from the gallery to the different part of the city. So I'm developing these different sort of strategies of extending the experience for the audience, which takes them from a gallery to the to the outside world, how we can make concepts and ideas more accessible for the audience. So most of the messages and most of the conversations is going to be multilingual, so that it reaches out maximum for the Urdu speaking audience and also for the English speaking audience. And really hoping that this will create a more sort of accessible experience for the audience. Yeah, so that's about it. Thank you so much. Looking forward for our Q&A.
Thank you, Faisal, very much. We have, pardon me, very little time left, but there is one question that hasn't been answered. Atteqa has been thankfully answering questions, but a question from Jason. Thanks for these presentations, which both emphasized heritage and history as important themes of KB22. Could they please highlight how some of the installations at heritage sites and particular artists will engage with these themes of reflecting back in time using present and future media? So Faisal or Atteqa, if you'd like to answer.
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
Sure. The question is mainly about how these installations that you might be doing at heritage sites will, and with particular artists, how will they engage with themes of reflection back in time with present, but as well as future media, because you've got a lot about, technological disruption, new media. So in terms of that play with media and heritage and history.
Yeah. Well, I can take a stab on that, but Atteqa, you can also chime in there. When I see time, past, present, and future, right? There's a notion of when you walk into these heritage buildings, so you are kind of part of the history in that context, right? And when we look at these sophisticated technological manifestation of the work, and then creating an experience with it, it's sort of, and then looking at the data. Most of these work are data driven, which is very city centric, right? Which is very global data centric. So the present connotation is coming through the site specificity of the work, which is giving them a rational perspective of the present times. And I think the future is where we all have to come together and create that conversation, right? And I think, to me, this is more about asking new questions and looking at that's where the dialogue happens, and you kind of manifest that as a community, as a collective imagination. So I think it's the threefold. I hope that answers your question.
So Jason, if that answered your questions, please let us know. You can do a follow-up. And just, there is another question, and either of you, I think, or Faisal will answer, from Ali Adil Khan, who asks about, how do you connect with masses who are not literate? I mean, there are many children, Adil writes, who are not able to go to school. So that kind of engagement and outreach, maybe Atteqa, you can speak to some of the educational outreach you've been doing.
Absolutely. Nitin and Adil, educational outreach will of course be through schools, but we do have workshops on the weekends. It's walk-in for everyone. And you see, we try to communicate through all the medium. Like, we try to go on radio, and we have interviews on radio. So a lot of people listen to the radio, and they see it on TV. We do a lot of TV coverage, interviews, so to attract people. And it's usually in Karachi, it's like this: if you're walking past the street and you see people walking in somewhere, whether it's a park or whatever, you're going to be curious, because if they're all walking in, you want to go in and see what's going on, right? And it looks welcoming enough, which we try to make it do. There are different strategies. I could go, there's certain ways you get people to get attracted. A lot of the school children bring their parents who are not educated, you know. So those are different strategies that we do use, and it's been quite successful. And just to answer Jason's question quickly, you know, Jason, it's about merging the old building with the new technology and the execution of the artwork that actually brings it together, because most buildings are not air conditioned, there's no electrical sockets, and you know, you have to think about all these things, and that's where the you know, the overlap occurs between the old and the new.